Welcome to the Sooners 360 Recruiting Podcast, the podcast for OU recruiting fans by Sooners 360. Each week we catch you up on the latest OU recruiting news and provide opinions and evaluations on all things OU football recruiting. I'm Chris Mason, lead recruit analyst for Sooners 360. This podcast is now sponsored by Sooners 360 on Patreon. To support this podcast, please go to patreon.com/Sooners360817 and click subscribe. It's only $2 a month. There's also a free trial option, and that's where I post all of my online recruiting content. This podcast is now part of the Believe podcast family. Every team, every topic, everywhere. I'm also appearing on the Horns Down podcast YouTube channel with Chris with a K and the Hall of Fame podcast with Jason Watkins. We record either Thursday or Friday night and do an hour-long live stream discussing OU season, college football, OU recruiting, whatever the topic of the week is. Please like and subscribe to the YouTube channel to be notified of when those recordings occur. And if you missed them, just go to the Sooners 360 YouTube channel. Just simply type in Sooners 360 when you go to YouTube, search, and go to the live section, and you'll see the recorded live streams that you can review. So I'm recording this Sunday night. I meant to record something for you guys Friday night or Saturday morning, but I was hoping we'd have some resolution on the OU quarterback situation or more data on the OU quarterback situation. I didn't want to record something and then have it be out of date by about 12 hours. There's some rumors flying around on Friday that we might see some movement. Nothing has panned out from that so far. I will review the QB situation during this podcast, so you'll be able to catch that in sort of the second half of this. So with all that covered, this is episode 131, Camp Offers While Waiting at Quarterback. Let's go to the recruiting news. So no OU verbal commitments, unlike the last one where we had the 3 commitments to talk about, it's a little annoying. It would have been nice to at least have 1 or 2 commitments to talk about. But unfortunately, Tavion Branch chose Rutgers on Wednesday. It looked like OU. I had sources that told me it was OU on Monday. It looked like OU on Tuesday. And then Wednesday morning, it was Rutgers. So I'm not quite sure how that breaks out. Possibly Rutgers' NIL number was more than OU had slotted for Tavion. Maybe that number plus being closer to home played a big part. Rutgers is in New Jersey, but it's not that far from where he lives in Pennsylvania. So it's kind of it's really sort of Penn State's the only real big state school in Pennsylvania. Pitt's obviously is there, but Rutgers routinely recruits from Pennsylvania quite well. So a hit for OU. I think he would have been a good addition. That would have given you Brian Harris, who I think is a 3-tech, and Tavion Branch, who I think you could have developed into a very effective 0-tech or nose guard in the OU2 defensive tackle scheme. But he chose Rutgers, so OU has to move on. So it's a light week in terms of visitors so far. The first one that visited was the first official. The main official visitor is Zephon Walker, the running back from Missouri. He got to OU either Friday or Saturday, and I believe his official visit is probably over. So he's a 4-star running back from Missouri. 5'11", 205, 210 pounds, power back, versatile back, got some wiggle and some speed to him even though he's a power back. He seems very high on OU, even though OU was kind of a late offer. He seems to be connecting with Coach DeMarco Murray. Seems to be a big fan of Adrian Peterson too, based upon social media stuff. So that puts OU, I think, in a pretty good position. He's visiting this, like I said, he's at OU this weekend. I think he has a Nebraska visit coming up. They're in play, Missouri as well. So it's going to be interesting to see how this shakes out. But the Zephon was the main official visitor. OU also had Josiah Jefferson on campus. He's Tony Jefferson's brother. If you've been following it on Twitter, you know that recruitment has kind of gone from Tony Jefferson saying, "Hey, can somebody does somebody need a tight end? My brother at JUCO is looking for a place," to him talking to Jim Nagy, to Nagy making an offer to Josiah Jefferson. He's at JUCO right now. I believe there is a possibility to get him eligible to enroll at OU for this year. I think that would be OU's preference. Certainly would be Josiah and Tony's preference to expedite his development by getting out of JUCO and into a Division I program. It would be a bit of a long shot. He's not like a 3-star player. His JUCO film looks pretty good. He was a wide receiver in high school. He's bulked up and just grown since then. He was at campus, and there were some photos of him at the OU camps, and he looks huge. He looks big. He looks like every bit that he could be 6'5", 230, 235, something like that. So, I think this is a developing situation. I think OU would like to make this work if they could get him eligible. And, at worst case, he redshirts this year. And and it's just a further piece where you're turning over the tight end room and getting more talent in there. So I think it's a possibility. Just have to sort of wait and see how that plays out. But I've watched his JUCO film. He's a really good receiver. His blocking needs work, but he does a good job receiving. He looks athletic. So I don't think this is the worst gamble OU could make. So, you would add another tight end into the 2025 class, which means you'd have him and Trinae Washington. So that would be an improvement. If he enrolls, the JUCO eligibility thing with the whole Pavia JUCO years don't count is kind of a mess. But I would think at minimum, he would have a redshirt year and 3 years to play. So that gives OU some development flexibility, some development time with him before he would, he'd have to hit the field. If he flashes, that would be great. I'm not. The tight end room needs to work itself out, and OU needs to kind of, I think there's a couple of guys in the tight end room that won't be on the tight end room after this season. That would be my guess. So we'll see how that works out. And then coming up, I believe on Tuesday, Ryan Estrada, the running back from El Paso, is visiting. He's 5'11", 180 pounds, depending upon what sites you believe. Burner, ridiculous stats. Bama and Michigan also looking at him heavily. So if the Zephon Walker doesn't pull the trigger and OU gets Estrada and he decides to, I'm not sure if OU's taking 2 running backs or not. That's kind of unclear. We'll have to see how that all plays out. But Estrada should be visiting. And then OU has the big weekend coming up for 620 with, about a dozen kids, including verbal commitments. That list's a little fluid. So I will wait until Thursday late Thursday night to record an update for that. So I'm not going to talk too much about 620. We'll get to that on Thursday. So there are no decisions upcoming this week. We do, however, have 2 more decision dates. So cornerback from Florida, Danny Odom, who's canceled some visits, is scheduled to announce on 6/23. I think that's an OU and Clemson battle. Deacon Schmidt, the big offensive tackle from Colorado, is announcing on 6/28. Looking like OU versus Bama and Colorado, if he sticks to that date and doesn't take and keeps his visit schedule kind of where it is. And then we have Tyler Ruxer, just to repeat. We've known his commitment date of 7/7. That's been established for a while. He did cancel a weekend visit. Looks like OU is way out in front to the point that I kind of suspect that he might tip off the OU staff at some point soon, cancel his visits, and then we just have to wait for the official announcement on the 7th. At this point, we have two other names I think that OU has significant leads on, and that would be Braxton Lindsey, the linebacker from Arkansas, 6'3", 220. I think we're just waiting for him to finish some visits. Then we could see an early July announcement. And Dallas Dickerson, the 6'1", 185-pound speedster from Georgia. I think July 4th is looking. I think July 4th is a pretty firm. I think we're going to hear a public announcement of July 4th from him that's what he's going to commit. UF, I think, was maybe the biggest competition, but UF has just gotten 2 wide receiver verbals in the last week, and Dickerson did not take his Florida visit. So those 5 guys, I think, are probably the players where OU has the biggest lead who haven't committed yet from the 6-13 weekend. And if OU is to land those 5 players, that would give OU 8 commits out of 15 players. Obviously, Tavion Branch has committed to Rutgers, so he's no longer in play. So that's a very effective recruiting weekend if it trends that way for the Sooners. Picking up linebackers, cornerbacks, offensive tackles, offensive guards, wide receiver, and a wide receiver and a tight end. I mean, that'd be a pretty effective group of players right there. So I mentioned it in the lead, so let's just talk about it. There's no real date. There's no date from Bo Bentley. If you're thinking that Bo Bentley has delayed something or is delaying pulling the trigger for some reason, well, that's an impression from recruiting sites. Bo's never given us, I'm going to make a decision on this date. He hasn't delayed that, canceled that, or pushed that off. So in terms of his decision date, he hasn't really, there's nothing to read into that from my perspective. I will tell you, he sent out a press release to all recruiting sites, LSU, OU, and National, on Wednesday, basically gave them the same set of quotes, the same discussion points. And from everything I can tell, he has gone completely silent on all recruiting services, sites. He may even have gone completely silent on the OU and LSU staff. So it's starting to look like we can't expect any kind of an update until after it's Sunday night. He's leaving for Elite 11, the Elite 11 finals in LA midweek. I think those go 17th, 18th, 19th. I think I have those dates right. So the best guess right now is that he'll look to make a decision after that. Now, if you were an OU fan, and we're OU fans, if you're an LSU fan listening to this podcast, hi, but I don't care about LSU recruiting. You'd love for Bo Bentley to just show up in Norman for the Champu barbecue on the 20th and hang out with recruits, and maybe that would be the telltale sign he's going to Norman. I don't. If I was flying out to LA doing a QB combine for 3 days, I doubt driving back up to Norman to go to a recruiting event would be high on my list. But in an ideal world, that he remains uncommitted, shows up in Norman for the Champu barbecue to talk to recruits, and verbals then. But I don't think that's happening. So while OU is in a definite holding pattern with Bentley, Jaden O'Neal came to the OU camp on Friday. From all reports, he looked great throwing the ball. The videos I saw from Sooner Scoop, it looks like he's leaned up a little bit. Looked his usual Godzilla-like self, throwing the ball all over the field with velocity. I can't imagine he attended OU camp without talking to Venables, Arbuckle, Coach Coos. So I imagine there were conversations that were had. Can't imagine that his dad also didn't get a chance to talk to the OU coaches. Did they lay out where things are before heading to FSU? I don't know. Jalen has publicly posted that he's heading to FSU today. He apparently is going to have a Monday official visit out in Tallahassee. It's a little strange. I would have thought FSU would have preferred he come in on a weekend with other recruits, but maybe they want him maybe they want to give him the red carpet treatment, just him, and have the coaching staff completely focused on him. That's a possibility. So I think an FSU verbal decommit from OU, I think we need to face the facts that that's a real possibility, maybe Tuesday, maybe Wednesday. Alternatively, O'Neal could ride this out until after his OU official visit. He's supposed to come to the Champ U barbecue on the 20th. I think again, after the FSU visit, if he's trending to FSU, I could see him canceling that. Or alternatively, they could just continue to ride the OU recruiting situation out until Bentley makes a decision. I'm not quite sure that's what they're doing. But you could interpret O'Neal's actions you could interpret them that way if you wanted to. I'm not sure that's what they're doing, but we'll see. Either timeline could leave OU only waiting on Bentley. OU could go into the Champ U barbecue with only one quarterback target left in Bo Bentley. I mentioned the Elite 11's final, that a decision after that is assumed. That's just an assumption by recruiting sites. Bentley could easily take his final decision into July, give him time, decide that he's been on the hoof lately and he just wants to, take some time with his family to think about it and push it out past July 4th. I don't talk to Bo Bentley's family. I have no idea there. I do think OU, through the machinations and trying to recruit 2 quarterbacks, has put them in a position where they could go 0-2. O'Neal to FSU, Bentley to LSU is distinctly possible. So I'm not sure what OU would do if they found themselves in that situation, but by recruiting two quarterbacks and running things this way, that's sort of where they are. LSU's only recruiting 1 quarterback, to the best of my knowledge. FSU obviously has been trying to recruit a number of high-profile signal callers after losing their verbal commitment. They had a guy verbal to them for 2027 earlier for 2026, who decommitted from them, leaving them a little bit scrambling to find a quarterback. So, we'll see. FSU made a run at Kejian Henderson, the quarterback from Houston. So we'll see how this all shakes out. But right now we are still 2 quarterbacks, still waiting to see what happens. So OU had the last camp sessions this week, and on Thursday and Friday, they had quite a few players show up. It's been reported elsewhere, so we'll just cover it. So Cooper Hackett, the number 1 offensive tackle in the country by at least one service, top 3 by everybody, top 15 composite national talent at offensive tackle at 6'7". He's probably 260 maybe. And he's a power forward looking, 260, small forward, almost 260. I mean, he can, once he adds weight to his frame, he's 300 pounds and he has elite athleticism at that spot, his footwork, his wingspan. He'll eat up pass rushers. He's pretty physical. So eventually that run game physicality will kick in. But he was there. Also, number one defensive tackle in the country by several services for 2027, Jared Brewster was there. Brewster has been, a fixture at OU events ever since OU offered him. He's been really, he's one second. I need to look up something here real quick. Okay, not letting me do that, huh? All right. All right, so Mr. Brewster has been to OU several times. He's 6'3", 6'4", 290, just an absolute beast at defensive tackle. OU is going to be fighting everybody for him. But it's Jalen Brewster. I don't know why I'm saying Jared. I screwed that up. Sorry, it's Jalen Brewster. The Brewsters are listening. Sorry, I know that. Jalen Brewster. Sorry about that mistake. He's, OU's going to have to fight off everybody. Texas, Oregon, A&M, Alabama, LSU. Everybody's going to be fighting for him. But he's so elite at this point and only getting better that OU seems to have a connection with him. Todd Bates has a strong connection with him. This is the kind of player where I'd hope Jim Nagy just pushes the chips in and says OU is all in. Because he's an elite defensive tackle. His moves inside means that he's a constant threat for tackles for loss and an interior pass rush. So if you could get Jalen Brewster on campus, if you could get that commitment, he would have a chance to sit behind David Stone and Jaden Jackson for one season before he takes over and becomes the next, hopefully, first-round pick, kind of all-American defensive tackle for OU. So OU should hopefully have two seat at least this season and next season in 26 before Brewster decides to kind of have on the field defensive tackle success, sustained defensive success, and hopefully some more success on the field in terms of wins to get things moving in the right direction. But that's basically two top 20 players that camped at OU that didn't have to camp at OU. They came to OU to work with the OU coaching staff and get coached by the OU coaching staffs on both sides of the line. Coach Biedenbaugh and Coach Bates. The other positive sign was 2028 defensive tackle from Kentucky, from Louisville, Kalen Hall, who's already had an OU offer for a while. He came to work out, and he's 6'4", 6'5", 275, 280. He'll easily be probably 300 pounds. He might be the number one defensive tackle for 2028. So to have Hall and Brewster working out for Bates, and they're not coming to get an offer. They want to work out with Coach Bates. They want to establish connections with the OU staff. That's a great point. By 2028, hopefully OU's, basking in the glow of 10-win seasons, a couple of 10-win seasons with the new SEC schedule that they've got. The defensive tackles like David Stone, Trent Wilson, Jaden Jackson are all garnering NFL draft kind of grades or getting ready to be drafted so that OU can stay in the battle for Kalen Hall, get him on campus for an official visit. Again, this is the kind of defensive lineman where Jim Nagy should just go all in with OU's assets so that OU isn't playing from behind there. But the fact he was on campus, I think, is a great sign for OU. And like I said, he's already had an OU offer. He didn't come here to get an OU offer. So two other players that were around the camp. One was Brody Knowles. He's a 2027 wide receiver from Texas, Dallas area. He's 6'4", 190 pounds. He's a Rivals top 200 player. And then DB, cornerback, or safety, it just depends. Montre Jackson, a name I've mentioned quite a bit before. He's got the ability to flex at either position. He's a Rivals top 100 player. Been to OU. This is maybe his 7th time in the last calendar year. So getting him back on campus, again, a really good sign. So there were campers that came to get OU offers. And I talked about a group from the first week. And now let's close out the camp offers that occurred this week. So the first one I'm going to talk about is 2027 Norman North Star Ben Kohler. He is the younger brother of the Kohler tight ends that plagued OU when they were at Iowa State. He's around 6'3", 220, 225 right now. He has excellent sophomore film. He's very physical in the block game. Excellent wide receiver. You know, OU offered Titus Hawk, the other in-state tight end from Choctaw, who's a little bigger. Well, he's longer. He's 6'7". So, you know, if you combine these two guys with hopefully OU getting Ruxer and Mix signed, if you could get these two in-state tight ends, you'd have some athletic, talented tight end bodies and have the room really rebuilt. So OU's done everything. You know, OU's gone, Kohler came to camp. That's when OU wanted to offer him. That made sense. So we'll see where they're going. Obviously, OU is not getting two of his high school teammates. Mason James is going to Washington, and is it Dave? I think it's David McMorris is going to Minnesota. So maybe they're going to fall behind a little bit there. Continuing the in-state offer trend for 2027, OU offered Colton McComb. He's a linebacker, 6'2", 210. He ran around a 4.6 or a sub 4.6 40 at the camp. I've watched his film. He's very good in coverage, very good sideline to sideline. Needs to be a little more physical, but like I said, that's his sophomore film. He's got junior film. I don't know. He may have looked even more physical at OU's camp. So good offer, and another linebacker offer that gives you two in-state linebackers, Colton McComb and Case Alexander. So if OU needs to restock their linebacker room a little bit, you've got some in-state prospects that can help with that. The last 2027 in-state prospect to get offered during the camp sessions was Gabriel Osborne from Mustang, Oklahoma. He's 6'3", maybe 180 pounds, huge frame, ran a 4.5, according to Brandon Drum from OU Insider, who lives in the Mustang area, so I would be shocked if he had that wrong. Could be a DB, could be a wide receiver, could be a DB, and a DB, he could be a cornerback, but I think based upon some other stuff going on, I wouldn't be surprised if OU looked at him at safety. And by cornerback activity, I mean that OU just offered 2027 Houston area cornerback Trent Blaylock. That is Torrey Blaylock's brother, who I've talked about previously. He's about 6'1", 175 pounds. He runs a 4.45 laser based upon his work at the Texas A&M camp. And he's a cornerback. Again, he's got the size to maybe move to safety, but he's a corner right now. And OU, by offering, I would like to think, is probably firmly positioned to make a strong run for Trent. In the same way that if they sign Derek Johnson from Murata, California, the verbal commitment in this class for cornerback, he has a brother, Darius Johnson, who's also a 6'1", 6'2" cornerback. So, OU's has made serious length and athleticism offers in the potential secondary room. They've already obviously offered some Stanford in-state and Bryce Brown at cornerback in-state. So at this point, OU has 10 in-state offers that I believe are all Nagy approved and Nagy signed off on. Offensive linemen, Penny and Hackett. linebackers McComb and Alexander, defensive tackle Joseph Graves, who was at Booker T but is transitioning to IMG. Then we have tight ends Hawk and Kolar. And then we have DBs Samaj Stanford, Bryce Brown, and now Gabriel Osborne. So a really stacked room of talented players across the board that OU, if OU has a great season this fall, you'd like to think that they have a good chance with most of those in-state kids. Last 2027 players I want to talk about offers are Luke Wilson from the Dallas area. He's 6'7", 285. The Sooner Scoop video I watched, he's got a huge frame, long wingspan, very athletic, still working stuff out, but all the measurables are all there, right? The NFL traits are all there. I watched his high school film. It's really good for a sophomore. He's anchoring the left tackle position, doing it in a great way. Maybe not as physical as he needs to be, but his positioning, his run blocking is good, and his pass blocking is excellent. The last 2027 player is from Colorado, and this is a name I've never heard of before, so I'll just tell you flat out. He is Troy Malo from the Denver area. He's 6'3.5", 240, according to him. I've watched he apparently was just fantastic at the OU camp. Did a great job in all of the drills, just looked explosive, just looked fantastic. He's a lean 230, 240, 230, whatever he is. He's a lean looking 230. He can easily be 255 without any real doubt in my mind. And I watched his high school film, and it's really good. He's doing a great job at defensive end, just smacking quarterbacks, setting the edge, tackles for loss, harassing quarterbacks left and right. He's a 3-star in the I guess you would call them embryonic 2027 rankings. I'm not really sure what weight to give them, but he's a 3-star. I think he'll get more offers, and I think he could easily be a 4-star player at the very least. I think there's a connection. He has a connection back to one of Patty's softball signees. I'll have to dig that up, but that was thrown around on the Sooner Scoop YouTube video. So that's the last 2027 player. We have a couple of we have 129 offer to talk about, 128 offer, and then we'll end with another 2029 player that we just sort of need to talk about because it's kind of fun. So the 2028 player that received an offer is Max Jones. He's 6'4", 280, 285. Offensive lineman, offensive guard. If he gets a little longer, because he is just 28, if he gets a little taller, he could be an offensive tackle, very athletic. He's at IMG, but he originally went to high school at Louisville. And apparently at the camp, OU's got some Louisville offensive linemen in their program, in both Michael Fasusi and Hutton, the offensive center walk-on that OU has. So I'd imagine OU's got some connections there if they keep up with Jones, and Jones keeps on OU's board. Then in 2029, OU offered, just like everybody else has been in state, OSU and Tulsa had already offered, but Devin Smith camped at OU. He's the big offensive lineman, the young offensive lineman at Broken Arrow. He's 2029, which means he is a freshman this fall. And he's already 6'4", 280, 275, good frame. Could be an interior guy, could grow into a tackle. But really in state, to have guys like Cooper Hackett, Devin Smith, Caden Penny, to have this sort of possible run on offensive tackles and offensive linemen in state that OU could recruit that's great news. It's good for the program. And they're at OU camps, getting OU offers. So, they very likely we could see Devin Smith return next year, maybe the year after. where Bill could just really build up that relationship with him. Speaking of 2029, the last name I'll talk about, it's been all over sort of Twitter a little bit, but Jimmy Wilkerson's kid, Jimmy Wilkerson, the OU defensive end that played for Stoops in the early 2000s. He passed away sadly last fall, but his kid is at Carl Albert, and he is already 6'7" in the 270 range. He didn't get an OU offer. I think probably OU will just wait, get him back on campus, have him go through camp again, see where he is. And I think an OU offer is highly likely. OSU already offered. OU has some natural connections there, obviously at Carl Albert, and and with the Wilkerson family. Jimmy's mom was also a Division I athlete. I don't know too much about him. The folks that saw him at camp said he was huge and he was very athletic. So we'll take that for what it is. I'm guessing down the road he could be another potential offensive tackle prospect. And if he's half as athletic as his dad, and he's able to put in the work and pick up the technique at offensive line, he could be an elite, fantastic offensive tackle. But he hasn't played a down of varsity football yet. And at Carl Albert, he might take him a little bit to get on the field. They're such a strong program, but a good development program. So we'll see what happens there. So that's all the news I got for you. Thanks for listening. Oh, one final thing. 2027 players are receiving OU communications and formal communications from OU. OU can reach out and call them. So you'll see that OU's sending graphics, making phone calls and top targets will start retweeting that information. So far, Jalen Brewster has done that, as has Cooper Witten, the 5-star top linebacker in the country for 2027 that OU's heavily involved in, heavily targeted. So thanks for listening. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast on the audio platform of your choice. If you're on YouTube, please subscribe to the channel. And don't forget to give us a thumbs up. If you're on an audio podcast, please leave us a positive rating. Finally, please visit patreon.com/Sooners360817 to subscribe for more recruiting content, or you can simply go to patreon.com and just search for Sooners 360. That will get you there as well. The Patreon site directly supports this podcast. It keeps it free. It allows me to do multiple podcasts a week. So please consider giving us a trial for our content. It's only $2 a month, and there's also a free trial. Thank you so much.